Hey there, independent Scientologists. Discover a new perspective to your bridge by visiting ao-gp.org. Get in session with remote auditing using the Theta Meter. Are you curious about where you stand? Head on over to ao-gp.org now and take our free personality test. Join the growing group of independent Scientologists today.
Hi, and welcome to another AOGP Scientology Outside of the Church. This is season 10, episode 2. And for the first time ever, we have Arthur Moudakis and the world famous Quentin Stroud. How are you guys doing today?
Doing fantastic.
I'm doing great.
Thanks for having me.
and what a great segue this is to today's podcast topic. Quentin, you wanna put it in the context of what we were just talking about before I hit record? What were you talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah, it basically boils down to this. Like, in my journeys around the world and working with people from all over planet Earth, it has come quite clear that life, for many people, not for everybody, but for many people, life is good. Like, I'm good. Life is doing good. Life and things are happening, and yet the individual is not doing so good, right?
Mm-hmm.
The individual is not feeling and being their fullest, operating at their highest potential. And so I really want to talk about that. I really want to talk about life is good, but I'm not. What do I do? Like, how do we move through that? Why is that?
How do we handle that? Well,
you know what? It kind of reminds me of something, actually. It kind of reminds me of the first book in the Bible where God gave Adam and Eve everything except this one tree. The one fruit they couldn't have. Yet they had everything else, and they still desired to have this one fruit.
Oh, that's good.
It was the one thing they couldn't have, and so it was that desire that pushed them to want more, because then what happens after they eat the fruit? More occurs, doesn't it? And it completely changes their dynamic.
Well, and that's in your wheelhouse.
Wow, yeah.
Quentin, from your experience and everything like that. What say ye on that?
No, that wow, I didn't even thought about it from that perspective. You're absolutely right. Like, when you have everything and your life is good, like, you look around, like, for all intents and purposes, you would think I'm in paradise. I should be happy. You would think, my beautiful home, my beautiful spouse, my beautiful, whatever. You would think that all of these things that are supposed to matter to us, they are wonderful and they're good. And yet I'm not happy. I'm not good. I'm not fulfilled. Maybe that's a better word, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not fulfilled. And so the one thing that I'm still chasing is this self-knowledge. Wow, that's so good, dude. This self-knowledge. Yeah.
Or it could be the forbidden fruit that you're chasing as well. Something that you've put yourself in a position in life, but really you wanted that instead, yet you chose this because it seems more moral and it seems more social in a sense. And maybe, you wanted a little bit of a cheeky lifestyle and you chose otherwise. And so you kind of live in some kind of resentment towards your current life because you wanted to taste the forbidden fruit but chose not to.
Yeah.
Well, just as an idea.
Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, that's all right. Go ahead, Quentin.
Yeah, it's interesting because, in the spiritual circles that I run in and stuff like that, the forbidden fruit really is self-knowledge. The forbidden fruit is the ability to be self-determined, to govern oneself. And that's a whole different podcast, of course. But this idea that if even with all the trappings of life, and I use that word, even with all the trappings of life, do I feel like I'm enough? Do I feel happy enough? Do I feel fulfilled enough? And I think that Scientology has broken life down in such a way, and if you follow the podcast and things of that nature, about the dynamics, and we can kind of cover them very quickly here. But Scientology has broken down life in such a way that any person can see wherever they are in their journey, oh, I know where I need to focus my attention. I know what I need to strengthen. I know what I need to improve upon. I know what I need to do in order to be better, to have better, and to do better. So I think that this is a good place to start. So I think we're talking about the first dynamic, self.
Yeah.
That's what this whole thing is really all about, right?
Yeah. 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 It's the first dynamic. You as a being, you as a being with a body, uh, your case as well. And I'm going to touch on this very briefly, but you and I were on Zoom yesterday and I was doing a clay demo checkout. What was it we were doing on that? You remember?
Yes, we did a clay demo on the nature of a being,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought I had it. I was like, oh, I can do that. I'm just gonna keep on going, right? I just kept on going through my course or whatever. I know what the nature of a being, but it wasn't until doing the clay demo, and excuse me, and Jonathan was helping me unpack it. It wasn't until doing the clay demo that I really got how much of a jumble we are and we are in. And I think it says the single simple being, which is the purest version of self, the single simple being, that being is something that one has to recover in order to fully know self. And I think that is when doing that clay demo, I just started laughing. Jonathan, you
Mm-hmm.
remember?
Yep.
I just cracked up laughing. This is crazy. This is crazy. All the stuff that we are loaded up with. I don't want to get too deep, but all the stuff that we are loaded up with that we think is us and we have to deal with. And that's just the cards I was dealt. That's just the hand I was dealt, you know? Mm, interesting.
Right. So you're dealing with a composite being on the first dynamic. And early on the bridge, you think, well, everything I think, everything I am, everything I am being, everything I do, and everything I have, well, is because I chose it. Now, but like you said, a lot of people have, well, most people, all people have a reactive mind, and they have genetic entities, they have entities, they have the time track. The reactive mind is pushing on this, and you don't just have one reactive mind. You're dealing with tens of thousands of reactive minds at any given moment, unless you're OT. Even if you're clear, you're minus one reactive mind. Clear is a being who no longer has their reactive mind. And when people see that, oh, well, clear. Don't get me wrong, clear is an excellent start, but it's just the first mile of the race. And that's on the first dynamic because you have all of these other influences that have to be addressed, considerations, postulates, beingnesses, all this stuff. And the only way you're going to handle this, because in the beginning, you think you're you. We approach it generally in auditing, generally speaking. So if you may be running some incident on Dynetics in book one, and you think, well, this is my incident. Good chance it's not, but it doesn't matter.
Wow.
It still gets the desired result. You get on the grades in Scientology auditing and you're handling communication. Again, we're auditing it generally for the composite being. So these things that you're auditing, sometimes they're yours, sometimes you think they're yours, and sometimes they're somebody else's and you're misassigning it. But again, it's generally done. So you're constantly auditing all these things and you're unpacking this bag of marbles that you've thrown on the floor and you're putting one in front of the other and you're putting order into disorder. And that's the auditing side of it. With ethics, on the first dynamic, you can make all the money in the world and you can be terribly unhappy. Some of the richest people in the world are extremely, extremely unhappy and they end up dead because of it, because of drugs, drink, combination of both usually. Um, and that is because if you are not happy, your ethics are out. And this is an important point. Ethics is only as good as you're looking at it from your perspective. Early on, your perspective is red, white, and blue. At clear, it's blue. At OT, it's transparent. And any OT that's listening to this podcast and has done their OT levels knows what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to hide any data lines here. But the thing is that ethics is only necessary to the degree that you are not being you. If you are being out ethics, you are in some other entity's valence.
Valence, yeah.
Be it mommies, daddies, or some other part of the composite case. That is the only reason a person goes out ethics. Beings are basically good. This is why we see these graphs 9 times out of 10 low on the left on their OCAs. The first 3 columns, A, B, and C columns, are way down at the bottom, or even worse, they're way, way up at the top, and they think they've got it all figured out. And LR8 says, when you get a graph for the first time from somebody, and this is 99.9% of the time, we're not going to get into past life clears or natural clears or anything like that. If they're really high with the first graph, they are so snowed in to somebody else's valence, they're actually at the bottom end of the scale on that graph. And you don't, even if it says 99, 99, 99, or 100 on those 3 columns, they've got themselves so convinced that they are them. They are completely not them. So they're going to be out ethics.
Wow.
They're going to have problems in life. Yeah. Yeah. And we see that a lot.
Why would that? Okay, so help me understand that, because so if you sit there and so Q sits down, takes a personality test, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in present time. I'm in this, pretty, uptone theta environment, taking the personality test. I'm doing my thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, I got this, boom, 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 and I'm good, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
my chart comes back and my graph comes back and it's showing good. You're saying that's bad?
Yeah, that's bad. Why is that bad? Because you're the definition of the word Scientology is knowing how to know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, at the bottom of, and this I've mentioned this scale before, and I'm not going to give the name of it because I can't remember it, but what it comes down to is at the bottom of the scale, you've got unconscious incompetence. Okay. And this is part of the awareness scale in Scientology as well. LRH didn't put it this way, but it fits. Unconscious incompetence. You've taken on a valence that you know is survival. Yes, I'm happy, I'm doing it and all this stuff, but you just can't quite get why it is you're not as successful, you're not as happy, your relationships suck, all of this stuff, but I'm surviving. You're still out of valence. You're in somebody else's valence.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
that's out ethics. You don't know, you don't know.
Yeah. I get that, and I think that when I was on my was it the L's or was it the it might have been the grade. No, it was the L's. It was the L's. I think when I was doing my L's, it was clear to me that my surviving was not was not my own. Like I was surviving and I was surviving good. Like just like I said before, like I'm good. Life is good. What are you talking about? But I can honestly say it wasn't me saying that. It was whatever valence or whatever identity that needed to survive and knew how to survive. I know how to survive, and I think we discussed it, Jonathan. But
Mm-hmm.
we went into it, and I was like, yeah, that's what I felt I needed to do. I needed to know how to handle things. I needed to know these things, and that's how I start to function. And it's
Right.
how valence. Oh,
Right.
okay.
And that is you unconscious incompetence, a valence, you, Arthur, me, we don't have a valence. We just are.
Mm.
So when you say, well, I'm in my own valence, that's a misnomer. You're not in your own
Right.
valence. You're you. You're you. You can only be out of valence. Okay. So when you're trying to survive,
Okay.
but yet you're still struggling. You're still struggling in some way. We all are struggling with something. It doesn't matter where you're at on the bridge, because the Dayton's got to have a game. Dayton's got to have a game. And if you knew all of the aspects, if you were playing checkers with yourself or chess with yourself, we've all done it as kids. You don't do it for very long because you're like, well, I know it's going to happen. So valences are an attempt to give yourself a game. But that is where it stops, is because a game consists of freedoms, boundaries, and purposes, per the Scientology and Dianetics axioms. And you have to agree to become aberrated in order to play any game. Because if you knew all of the components of the game, you're playing chess with yourself and it's no fun.
It wouldn't be a game. Yeah.
Right. So that brings us to, for anything to persist, there is a lie behind it. This is in the Scientology axioms. And that's an alter is. Now we make postulates in the beginning prior to being clear, being OT. You make these postulates in the beginning that this is the game that I'm going to play. I'm going to be Ringo Starr. That was my postulate. I loved the Beatles as a kid and I couldn't get enough of it. I'm going to be a drummer. That's not me. That's a game, but you're going to stop yourself, because if you achieve that, now you have no game. And in the beginning, you're playing games that you really don't have any control of. You're just saying, hey, this gets attention. Why was it that I wanted to be Ringo Starr? Why does it musicians want to be musicians? Well, get a lot of chicks. I mean, I was a little kid, so chicks weren't important to me, but it got me attention. Attention is the second greatest particle, second only to admiration. So you will take on a valence that gets the most attention, and that valence is going to be the weaker valence. So if your little brother is just a motherfucker and he's getting all the attention from mom and pop, I need to act like my little brother because he's getting all the attention. Now you're out of valence. That's the weaker valence. Or if your mom is getting abused by your dad, or your dad's getting abused by your mom, whoever is around you, that gets the most attention. So now you're being somebody else, and now you're being out ethics. And you might go through your entire life doing that. And the next lifetime, who or what would oppose that valence? Now you're going to do that. So I'm speaking about this.
And you're gonna start battling, like
yourself.
battling yourself. Yeah.
Right. And this is what the L11 and the L's handle is it's who or what would oppose, back and forth. It's like shoelaces. One side goes in here, one side goes in there, and then they cross over. One side crosses over from the other side, and the other side crosses over to the top. There's a long, long litany of valences that a person has been. And you're unraveling that in auditing, not only from your standpoint of your case, but from the composite cases standpoint as well, because you're being influenced by other sources. So this causes tremendous out ethics, and then you've got planet Earth. I'll step down for you guys to give input.
Yeah, well, I'll say I'll say I have a lot of reality with pretty much what you just said, because when you said the word survival, that's where it really like, oh, that's why I act like that.
Yeah.
That's why it's like that. Like
Yeah.
I have to survive, and that made me feel strong. It made me feel, and I'm saying that I know when I say that, I know exactly what I'm talking about. When I say that, you don't know it because you ain't in session with me. But when I say that, the things that I would do, the things that I um uh that showed up in my life, and the things that I would save, and it was because I knew I had to survive.
Right.
And in me knowing I had to survive, I had to be a certain way, but that wasn't me. It wasn't. And it's interesting because since going clear and attesting to clear, I've become so much more empathetic. And it's very different. I'll say that. But I become so much more empathetic because I now see me in relationship to other people,
Right.
right? I see me in relationship. It wasn't this valence. It wasn't this mask and this helmet and these pads and these cleats and whatever. I'm playing the game in, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
playing the game in all this equipment that I put on myself, and because I gotta be safe out here, I gotta win this ball.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now I'm
I
supposed to.
Yeah. And so now it's oh shit. So now it's like I'm out here on the field and I don't have all that stuff on, right? I
Mm-hmm.
don't have all the pads and the helmets and the cleats and da. I don't have all that stuff on, but I still want to play this game. So I gotta play it differently now, right? I have to play it with more consideration. I have to play it with more intelligence. I have to play it with more empathy. I have to play it with more communication. Oh my God, this is so big. I don't want to be the analogy, but you get what I'm saying, right? If you out there on the field and you got all these pads on, these protection mechanisms that you have wrapped yourself up in, yeah, you're gonna run that. You're gonna run hard, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have all that stuff, you're gonna play smart. Come on, Scientology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so you're approaching it from a completely different viewpoint than the one that you adopted, which was somebody else's valence, 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 and on and on and on. That's how this works, and this is what LRH found out on the briefing course. So to the degree that you're out of valence is to the degree that on the first dynamic, returning back to what we were talking about, and Arthur, feel free to jump in. You look like you want to say something, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
You're just trying to be you all of the time because you can't without handling those valences with auditing and training, because it would be sort of like giving up your blade in the middle of 10,000 orcs that surrounded you. There's no way you can back out of that without auditing. No way, because it's not survival. It's dangerous. Arthur, go ahead.
Yeah.
So it's funny, like from my end, listening to both you guys discussing this, and I'm reflecting a lot, and I'm feeling different waves of emotions on different areas that you've both touched on, um, and especially with you, Quentin, talking about the armor as well. And then the funny thing is, I think like right now, I feel really content, right? Because there's been in the last however long, there's been an enormous amount of information being thrown out there, and there's an element of reality there that you're not aware of until you're sort of aware of it. And what I'm finding interesting right now for me, just hearing you guys talking about this, is in reality everything's just fine. Like there's nothing really wrong. And like while we're doing the podcast, that's what I'm feeling, hearing it while we're talking about it. But then I know after the
Yes.
podcast, when I get on with my day and with my world, these things will slowly creep in. And those little bits of armor and those sayings around survival, money's easy to get. And, it was just all these little aberrative thoughts that creep in on your decision making that oppose like the things you should be doing. But then there's a question mark there. Should I be doing those things? Are they actually my thoughts? You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean?
Right. Whose
And
game
that's
or what
that's
game
what's
are you
interesting
playing?
about this.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And so I could say, okay, I'm earning money, I'm alive, I'm healthy, I'm all these things. Yeah, and exactly what you were saying earlier in the podcast, Quentin, around, but I'm just not happy. I'm just not satisfied. I'm just not fulfilled. I'm not any of these things. But then there's another half of my being that's totally fine. Why can't I hear that all the time?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
stand in that and,
Uh,
stand in it from a place of like this is the real me, like this is how I really
yep,
authentically feel. And yet
yep,
because of life, because of the news, because of politics, because of
yeah,
finances,
yep,
whatever, I have to worry about something, or I have to play this game
yeah,
in such a way that like dog eat dog, and I'm gonna fuck somebody up if they don't run me my money. Right now, I got a situation right now where I let somebody borrow some money, and
Yep.
no communication whatsoever, right? And I'm about to go through the roof, right? But I'm
Where's my
good
money,
though.
man? Where's my money?
Like
You got
right,
my money, man?
right. Like no, no, it ain't even you got my money, man. I'm finna blow up your spot, right? Uh, um, more to his point, I'm good. Like
Yeah.
financially, I am good, and yet I'm about to blow up your spot. Where's my money, man? Like I'm serious. And
Yeah.
so it's like, why can't I just be good? And okay, well,
Mm.
it's a thing. Anyway, I'm not saying I have to be permissive about it. I'm just saying that, you know, I, I don't have to worry about that, but I'm choosing to. And why am I choosing to? Right. This
Right.
is why I think this is such an important conversation for those of you who are listening, because excuse me, when life is good, but you're not. What's up with that? Why does that happen? Where's that going on? And what I'm hearing you say, Jonathan, is that these valences and these masks that we wear, these things that's going on, these GEs and these all the stuff that's happening with ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
we're playing out this drama called life,
Mm-hmm.
and we think we're playing it well because if you look at my life, I'm good, right? But I
Right.
don't feel
But
like I'm me. This is
you don't
imposter syndrome stuff.
yeah, you don't know
Maybe
what you don't know. Go ahead, Arthur.
it is, because sometimes I struggle with the way society is made up, and we're constantly chasing the things we're told will make us happy. I remember many years ago, I walked into a bank with a friend of mine. She was just withdrawing some cash, and I was looking around the bank, and there was all these posters on the bank of people on holidays, having houses and families, the beautiful couple, all these things. And I remember asking the teller, I said, "Hey, if I join up with your bank, is that what will happen to me?" And everybody in the bank just laughed at me. You know what I mean? So it's like, how can we avoid um, these false perceptions of what happiness actually is? And society says, you need to, procreate. You need to have a beautiful spouse. You need to have a good job. You need to have all these things, and even just that three-letter word, job, as opposed to have a purpose, as opposed to
Mm,
be enlightened, as opposed to create what you were born to create, as opposed to create something for somebody else who's just paying you because it's your job. So how
yeah.
can we find some fulfillment when that is our life at the moment? Like, how do you break out of that?
Yeah.
Well,
That, that,
that
that that in and of itself sound like a valence. You're wearing
Okay,
the you're
sure,
in the
sure.
job of,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm a
yeah.
representative
yeah.
of such and so and so.
Yeah,
Hmm.
the American dream type of a thing. Two
Yeah.
kids,
Or
two
even the
two
Australian dream. Yeah.
yeah, the Australian dream, what is being sold to you. But
Yeah.
like LRH says, he says auditing concerns one thing above all else: terminals. And terminals are persons or things that you have created some sort of a game, and the game is disagreement, because what you have on a meter is you have charge, and charge is a disagreement from the thetan. And that disagreement is almost always, if you can't beat them, join them, because if you join them,
Mm.
that's survival. If you're a Nazi and you get conscripted, you've got to agree to what Adolf Hitler says, because if you don't, chances are you're not going to live very long. So you decide,
Mm.
I'm going to be a Nazi like Adolf Hitler. And then when you get in court after the war is over and you say, well, that's just my job, I was just doing what I was told. That's a prime example of what you're talking about, Arthur, is
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
had to
And
agree.
it
Go ahead.
and it actually really surprises me, the power of that game. Like it blows my mind, the intensity of, I don't know, it's like we're already born into a trap in a sense. And like the game is, how do you get out of this trap? How do you get out of this vice, so to speak? And like you said, you either join them if you can't beat them, but then to beat them, it's quite a force. It's not a small force.
Right. And with auditing and terminals, it always comes down to, what did you do to Adolf Hitler as an overt? Because
Right.
because that is what tied you to that terminal, is you did something to them that you wouldn't want done to yourself. Now you're at, wait for it, effect. And then when you're at effect, down the chute you go, and you go, well, I got to join them. I was conscripted, and well, what were you guilty of? You were there and communicating. You thought about leaving the country. You heard that they were conscripting people, and you said, there's nothing I can do about it, or I can't leave. These are postulates that you've decided on in order to put you into a valence and allow yourself to violate your own moral code. And then now you're being Adolf Hitler, whatever, squared, because it's survival. So that is why a person is unhappy. And you're not only dealing with what you're doing, you've got the influences of the composite case that are saying, yeah, you should do this, and you're going into agreement with this. At the time, on the lower end of the bridge, you don't realize that you're going into agreement with a shit ton of out ethics from the composite case, because you think it's just your thoughts. So
right, you're pulling all of it in.
Yeah, you're pulling all of it in, and the harder you resist, the harder it pushes. The harder you resist, it harder it pushes, and you just finally go, well, this is what I've got to do. And the composite case is sort of like the Emperor in Star Wars. Yes, come to the dark side.
He's my favorite character, by the way.
Yeah, something dark side. That's literally what happens on the whole track. And then you find yourself behaving certain ways in certain situations, and hilarity ensues, and you find yourself in present time on a third-rate planet next to a second-rate star. And why the hell am I on this nut house of a beautiful planet? I can't get the things done that I want to do. I can't be myself. This is why auditing helps.
So were we out of valence to end up here?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Listen, I already know. I know I had to assume a certain valence to even be here. And I was a Cambodian woman. And it was a really interesting life to be here. So yeah, yes, this is definitely a valence activity.
Yeah. And this goes into the data series. Identities that aren't there's identities that are not similar, because what is sanity? It is the ability to differentiate identities, beingnesses, all of that stuff. If you can't differentiate, it's insanity. So
that's true.
And that's all there is to it. And the only way to sort that out is to confront these things, which you can't. I mean, you're not going to go. Some people go. I have some PCs that go whole track in interviews. The first ever interview they go whole track, and some people it takes a really long time because they're so occluded on the track to the things they were because of the things that they did. They don't. They have. It's the blackness of case basically. So you unwind that on a gradient scale, getting the person to take a little more responsibility, getting a little more beingness, unclog that drain so that you can get it down the drain, and then you can go, oh, there's a bathtub here. I'm in a bathtub. I'm in an apartment in the Bronx. Wait a minute, I'm on Earth. What the fuck happened?
Right.
That's how this works.
I want to read this lecture. Lecture. Sorry. I want to read this quote from a lecture by LRH. It's called The Dynamics. It was given on 7th of April, 1959. And I think it kind of hits true to kind of what we're saying along this first dynamic thing that we're trying to work with. It says, so the whole of the dynamics, when we say survival, have to do with conscious creation.
Mhm.
A man is consciously creating all of these dynamics, except the first. He is it. Now, but very intimate to the first, he creates identities, poses, which identify him. Very intimate to the first dynamic. So just those first few axioms are true. He can't do anything else but survive, is the truth on the first dynamic. And that's the dynamic he's most anxious about surviving on, which should tell you a great deal. He's nuts.
Yeah.
LRH.
Yeah. I remember reading that, listening to it. And that's the
Yeah.
thing, is that you're trying to survive with whatever it is, whatever those tools are, to survive as best you can. But there are varying degrees, lots of varying degrees of
Mhm.
survival. You can have a 9 to 5 job and you're surviving, but are you happy? No.
Right.
You could be a millionaire, a billionaire, and be busy all the time. Are you really happy? Um, I'll give you a case in point, and I mention him all the time. Elon Musk. He's got all of these companies. He's the richest man in the world, but he loves drama. Everybody that's around him. I watched an interview with the biographer that lived with him for several years, if not many years. And at the end of the day, he said, Elon's not happy if there isn't drama.
I can see that.
Let's unpack
I can
that
see
for
that.
a minute.
Yeah.
How can you be the richest man in the world and love drama?
Yeah.
Well, it's his driving force, isn't it? It's what makes him pursue new things.
Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
his dad was ridiculously suppressive to him. His dad's still around too, and his mom divorced him and took the kids and had several jobs. She's a model now, and I think in her 70s or 80s still. She's still a runway model, and she didn't let it keep her down. And all of her kids are successful in their own way. Obviously, Elon is excels at what he does, but he still loves drama because that is what he's used to in his environment, was this drama. He got the shit kicked out of him as a kid in South Africa. He dealt with his dad beating on him and berating him and everything. And he doesn't know what to do without that drama. So it is a component of the valence that he is in. Can you imagine what it would be like if he didn't have those buttons on the calculator held down? What we would be seeing from him?
Oh wow,
Mm,
yeah. If you didn't have to
sure.
be in the muck and mire of it all, you could just
Yeah,
really focus and create and unfold.
yeah. I mean, we did a podcast, you and I, Quentin, on the potential value of a being. Remember?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
So that
This is
that is.
this is really powerful because I think that when we as independent Scientologists, when we, talk to people and post content and share with people about, uh, getting on the lines, getting on the bridge, getting in auditing and stuff like that, I think there's a be do have, a have do be kind of thing where it's like you got to kind of present it like, oh gosh, if you get in session, you'll get this, and you'll get that, and you get a car, and you get a car. You got to present it in a way that people can have it.
Mhm.
But the truth of the matter
Mm,
is, and like Artie said at the beginning, like it's like I got stuff, and I can do things, and I'm capable or whatever. But where's my forbidden fruit? Like, who
Right.
am I?
mm, mm.
What's going on with this? And I think that really is the main thing. So anybody listening to this right now, I would just say, come and get to know yourself. That was the
Mm.
biggest win for me in going clear. Come and get to know yourself. And you feel
Mm.
so good in knowing who you are. And the world feels so much better in that, to that degree. And then there's more.
Yeah, and to the point of the clay demo of a composite being and their mock-up is people they say, well, someday I'm gonna pay for my bridge. Someday I'm gonna get auditing. And then that becomes next year, it becomes 10 years, it becomes decades, it becomes and they never quite get there because they don't know themselves because they're still operating off of this viewpoint of yeah, I'm me, I'm doing what I'm doing, but they always know that they want to get up the bridge. They know that Scientology and Dianetics have something to offer, but they never quite get there. And the reason why they never quite get there is they never bit into the apple, the forbidden fruit, to find out what they
Come
really
on.
really was because they were unwilling to confront it and do something with it. They were happy with their level of non-confront and I'm getting by and I could be happier and they know they want to do the bridge, but they never make the move because there's always a gazillion reasons why not to. Or like I've said in other podcasts, people pay all kinds of money for services, then they think, well, I've done it. I paid for it.
Mm.
I'm good. And I never hear from them again
Mm.
because they just feel like it's money in the bank but they never ever find out who they really are even though they know they want to. They never take that first step and more importantly, stick with it. They have to stick with it and it's work. And it's complex to do, but the thing is complexity and confronting applies. Whatever's complex, there's something about it you're not confronting. What is it you're not confronting? You've got to
Hmm.
confront your own case. And an auditor
Mm.
can do that for you. But I'll tell you what, the gains that you get past clear are you have even LRH says nobody has any idea the amount of gain you can have from the OT levels and as a solo auditor taking responsibility for your own case and saying instead of saying well
Right.
Don's going to take me in session, he'll get everything worked out. Instead it's I'm taking me in session and I'm going to confront this nasty stuff on the whole track that has been holding me down long before I ever ended up in the solar system, the system we live in on Earth, and this nut house of a planet that we live on.
Yeah. Wow. I like what you said about not one being happy with their current level of confront, right? That you either don't do any auditing because you don't want to confront and deal with your own case, or like you said before, you might pay for something or put some money on the lines or whatever, but never really show up for yourself.
Yeah,
Um, because you just can't get to that point where you know what, I'm good. Like I'm happy with my level of confront, what I can deal with and what I'm dealing with in my life right now. But the truth of the matter is, it really is a back off of truth because even that's not the truth of who you could really be, right? Even this is not the truth of my being. The truth of my being is yet to be discovered, and
right.
so my level of confront has to go up, has to be high in order for me to fully discover who I really am and what I'm really capable of. And so
Yeah.
I love that.
Mm.
I think that if for nothing else, and I know as independent Scientologists, we focus a lot on first dynamic wins and stuff like that. But I think that that really is the way. Like do it for you. Like 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 go into this for you to discover you, to get a better understanding of you, to figure out who you are, and then all the other dynamics kind of line up.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
Yeah, because there's that old saying, no matter where you go, there you are.
Mm-hmm.
You can't run away from yourself. You can't run away from your own non-awareness, non-ability, It's always going to be the same. The status quo remains the status quo until you change the status quo to a new status quo. You have to take the step, and you have to have self-discipline in order to do it. And one of the lowest podcasts we have in listenership was the one on self-discipline to this day.
Interesting.
Ain't that something?
There's a statistic, a real statistic.
Go listen to that. Go listen to that one then. If you listen to this, go listen to that one. Self-discipline.
Right, because
Get it together.
you're not confronting the fact that you have. I mean, that's self-discipline and confront. They're the same thing. I might as well said, "I dare you to confront this," and titled it that type of a thing. It's
Wow.
amazing to me. Yeah, if you can't confront doing using self-discipline, doing self-discipline, practicing it, you can't get anywhere on anything. And that is, sorry. And I know that the E word is so uncomfortable because of the wrong indications that you were given by the church, the wrong indications mommy and daddy gave you, brother and sister, life gave you. But I'm telling you right here, all of those wrong indications you gave yourself, period. And that's hard to confront. All of this, well, I have an out list, and this isn't true for me, and all this stuff. Okay, who believed it? You did. You did. Why did you believe it?
What's the E word? You said the E word.
Ethics.
Oh, boom, boom, boom.
Ethics. That's the point. Ethics is reason. Somebody says you're a no good motherfucker. That's such a wrong indication for me. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just ruining my life. It just set me into, Okay. Who believed it?
You did.
You did.
Yeah.
That's a valence. Because if you were in valence, bum, 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 it would have bounced off of you like you were Teflon Don.
That's what I do. Oh my God, that's so interesting. Because listen, they done call me everything but a child of God. And and I be like, who are you talking to? Like, Jonathan, you know me. Jonathan know me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get you. I get you on that one. That's powerful. This is a really good conversation. I think that we could definitely continue this discussion because I think that
part two, yeah.
Because I think when we talk about the second dynamic and stuff, we wanted to hit home for people who are dealing with second dynamic stuff. But the truth of the matter is, like you said, and like LRA just said, you're creating these other dynamics conscious. It has to do with conscious creation. You're creating all these other dynamics except the first. That's you.
Right.
And you got all these intimate connections and these identities and poses, and you identify yourself here, them identifying him, and you got all this other stuff going on, but you are your own first dynamic, bro, and you got to deal with that, sis.
Right. Who believed the lie? You did. And that's why LRH says, that's why he says all ARC breaks stem from missed withholds. And you can live and die by that concept. It's no auditing can occur because over an ARC break. Yeah, that's true. But the thing is you got to pull that motherfucker down, and you're sitting, I was so sad. Okay, why are your ARC broken? What did they miss? What did you miss? Who nearly found out about that? Well, come on, just say it. Okay, good. Okay. What did you do to that person or somebody like that person? Whatever it is, what contra survival act did you do that caused you to withhold to then ARC break? Now, I'll go even further. All overts are based off of a misunderstood concept, word, or symbol. Second dynamically, could be love, could be whatever. But the thing is even underneath that is the holy concept of a valence. If you were really being you would have said, I need to look that shit up. I need to clarify this for myself. But if you're in somebody else's valence, fuck it. And off
I'm
to
not
the
dealing with
races
that.
we go.
Right. Right. That happened to me in my
I'm really
2D.
glad we did
Yeah.
this one. I'm really
Yeah.
glad we did this one because it's given me a whole new reality on what I believed the first dynamic to be. I saw it more of a material kind of thing,
Yeah.
you know, where you'd have your money in order, you'd have your house in order, you'd have, you know, all these things in order, so to speak. But then having the realization now doing this podcast with you guys that you are the first dynamic, all those things are merely a reflection of who you believe you are,
That's true.
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is really interesting. So I'm
Yeah.
so glad we did this because it's definitely changed my perception around what I thought it was. And the funny thing is, now that my perception towards it has changed, it doesn't seem as difficult. Like it makes more sense. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
As bizarre as that sounds, it's like, okay, it's not that I have to give myself a hard time for cleaning my house or, you know, getting a better job or whatever
Brushing
the
your
case may
teeth.
be.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing. Yeah, sure. It's okay. What's preventing me from doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And who
What's
am I?
what's
And who am I in that space? So, for example,
That's right.
I don't like to clean. Just me personally, I just don't like to clean. And I can go back to my mama, and every Saturday she used to put on some jazz music and make us clean the whole house, and it was terrible. But I digress. But but I have to kind of pick myself up my own bootstraps, go in the kitchen, do the dishes, make up the bed, do this. Like I have to do these things that I know it's surveillance to not do it. You feel what I'm saying? I
Mm-hmm.
know it's
Mm-hmm.
some kind of
Yep.
ARC break,
Yep.
Who or
some
what
kind of
would
enforced,
oppose?
right. It's
Yep.
some kind of enforced reality that was put on me when I was a kid. I know it's that. And because I know it's that, because I'm conscious, or you say conscious creation, because I know it's that, I have to consciously create my space the way I want it. And so now I am the I that I am. I am getting up and I am doing the dishes. I am going to make my bed. I am going to do the laundry. I'm going to put
Mm-hmm.
away the laundry after I do it.
Right.
I'm talking to myself.
Without aberration, without influence, it's simply a
Yeah.
thought, and then the body does it. It's not like you're battling yourself to create these things, or to have these things happen. It's pretty interesting. It's
Well,
really interesting. It's just
for
it's
me, that it is a battle. For me, it is a battle to have to
okay.
do it.
Yep.
But just like what Jonathan was saying about playing that game with yourself, I do it now as more of a game. Like, you know what? I did, and
Mm.
I literally, I'm serious, Art. I take pictures after I wash the dishes. I'm like, I did that shit. And I'm happy about it. You
Actually,
know, I give myself a win. Mhm.
I just had another realization. I actually write myself lists of duties to do because my mind is, you know, left, right, and always thinking and doing things. And I think I've just made a little realization. When I write my lists, that's me writing my list to remind me
Mhm.
when I am aberrated, these are the things I need to do. Or when I'm out of valence, these are the things I need to do.
Get her
Reminder
done.
to the theta being, you know, this is what you have to do. Before the invaders come in and take you away from your course, this is your course. Here it is on paper.
Yeah. Well, and
I
that's
love it.
that's the thing when you get down, because I mentioned that to you when we were talking about your list. Incomplete cycles. Incomplete cycle. A list of incomplete cycles is a list of incomplete postulates that you've put out there. And to the degree that you have incomplete
Yep.
postulates is to the degree that you're dispersed. And the postulates you
Yep.
create that disperse you, that you left incompleted, are because you're in another valence.
Yep. Yep.
Otherwise, everything would get done because you're getting
It's easy.
distracted by all of these stimulators, whether in the theta universe or in the physical universe, instead of following through. And to the degree that you finish whatever that list, if you did a list of the incomplete cycles, you either complete those cycles or you unmock the postulate because you realize maybe that postulate was based off of some other valence and now it's not important to you and you've gotten some
Yep.
auditing or whatever. But to the degree that you finish these incomplete cycles, that's all auditing is. is it's getting you to look at your incomplete cycles of postulates that were either made by you or somebody else. And then now you have all of this theta, like LRH says, your attention units are back from a Dianetic standpoint, a 1950 standpoint.
Yep.
Now you have it all back here. Then you get on the OT levels. Now you're looking at things on a much larger scale. You created a Thetan out over here. You created a monitor over here. You created this thing over there. And you either go, okay, go off on your own or come back. And now you've got this, or whoever's postulate is put into your universe, and you're like, that's somebody else's creation that's in my universe, and it's a valence, and I'm buying into it, but it's not my creation, but I'm agreeing with it. It's the same thing, whether you want to call it a valence or a postulate, because a valence is a postulate. I got to do this to survive. That's all it is. That's all it is. So
this is so good.
Yeah. So
it is good. I totally agree. Yeah.
I'm back, baby.
Yeah. So maybe we'll do a part 2 on this next week. And we really appreciate our listeners for being here. We have a Black Friday special for your entire bridge, 50% off your entire bridge at Independent Scientology rates. Not the churches. We are a mere fraction, and we do it a hell of a lot better than the church does, let me tell you. So get in touch with us about the Black Friday special. You'll want to know more. We can make it doable for you. Start now. Don't put it off. Get your butt up the bridge. You'll see what we're talking about, and you're going to find yourself in a way that you never knew you ever were. So for Arthur and Quentin, nice to have you back, Quentin. Thanks for being here.
Thank
you.
We
bid
so
you
much.
adieu. Namaste, and we love you. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Bye-bye.